This is 2 Minutes Together, a ministry of Central Lutheran Church, Eugene, Oregon. I'm Pastor Ben. This week, in our Old Testament reading, we have a reading from the end of the book of Joshua. Joshua has brought the people into the land and has settled it, which is the nice version. What he really did was have wars with those who were living there. And now at the end of the book, he feels it's settled. They're inhabited. So Joshua reminds them of the covenant that God has made with them at Sinai, that God gave to Moses. And then we have our chapter, and he gives them a direct charge. And he says to them, you need to stop worshiping these local gods here and worship God alone. And by the way, which would be the first commandment in the Sinai covenant, so it's sort of reiterating what he's just reminded them of, but it's a direct charge. I want to emphasize this today because it's one of those moments that I don't think we often feel applies to our life very well. My guess is those of you viewing this video probably are not worshiping in another religious community. But I think if we look carefully at the context, there might be something where this matters for our life. And this is be a little bit borrowing on what we know happened later, but I think probably was the case too, in that it was not actually the fact that they stopped worshiping the God of Israel and started worshiping these others instead of. Instead, what seems to be the case is they were continuing to worship the God of Israel, but then they were also worshiping these other gods. And the reason they were doing it is they didn't honestly see a problem. They thought, we're going to go worship the God of Israel in the tabernacle these days. And that's the portion of our life dedicated to the tabernacle and that God. The rest of our life doesn't have anything to do with it. And I say it like that because that's something I think we all can resonate with this idea that we have our worship life that fits this small portion of our life, and then the rest of it is something else. And we probably aren't off worshiping other gods, but that tension is something I think we all live in. How do we avoid that and see that the faith we hold is encompassing for every aspect of our life? That we are not just worshiping at one space, but instead we are devotional in all spaces. Sometimes that's simply recognizing the way in which we are serving our neighbors when in the very lives we lead. Sometimes it is challenging and challenging us to think differently about how we're acting and how we're being. But all of it is suggesting, what does it mean to worship this God and this God alone? Is to say the whole of our lives, every day of it, not just when we're explicitly worshiping, is related to that faith that we hold. That's what it means for the fullness of worship. That's what I think the book of Joshua is trying to remind the community. This has been 2 Minutes Together. I'm Pastor Ben.